So the last few years I've turned my attention towards recommending audiobooks, since that is how I get a lot of my own personal reading done.
Really? Audiobooks? That's not really reading. You're just listening.
Now, if you ever encounter someone who says audiobooks aren't really reading, you ignore that person because you don't need that kind of negativity in your life. Now, while I know I did a list of some of these titles, way back when in January, I wanted to go more in depth with my selections. So here are my top 10 audiobooks for Season 7. Number 10, Star Wars Padawan's Pride by Bryan Q. Miller, narrated by Kevin Kemp. The story goes back to the days before the Clone Wars and focuses on the early master-apprentice relationship between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker. Anakin gets thrust back into the world of pod racing while he and Kenobi investigate the criminal underworld of the Hutt Lords. At number 9 is Tansy Bloom Monster Hunter by L.J. Weller, narrated by Tanya Reynolds. This was one of my selections from January. I really enjoyed this book because the characters are interesting and they go through a bit of a story arc. The world is real, and the author takes her time to really delve into the local legends and folklore surrounding this particular part of the UK, where the story is based. If you're a fan of Supernatural, then I think you're going to really like this book. At number 8, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving, narrated by Tom Misson. I've been a fan of this story ever since I was a kid, but my only exposure to the story of the Headless Horseman and Ichabod Crane were from the Disney animated adaptation and the Sleepy Hollow film directed by Tim Burton. I did watch the Sleepy Hollow series on the Fox network, so when I saw that Tom Misson, who played Ichabod Crane on that TV series, was narrating, I jumped at the chance to finally read the original story. It is definitely worth listening to, especially at Halloween time. Number 7, Constituent Service by John Scalzi, narrated by Amber Benson. I'm a fan of Scalzi's work. It's thought-provoking and frequently hilarious. The short Audible original is no different. It takes place in a world where humans and beings from across the galaxy inhabit Earth, often working alongside each other, and in this particular case, a young college graduate goes to work for a large city's district office and has to navigate the finer points of interspecies political bureaucracy. Number 6 is horror classics Frankenstein, Dracula, and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, a great courses lecture series written and narrated by James Krasner. This lecture focuses on the stories and how they developed, as well as dealing into the social elements that prompted the authors to develop the narratives of their books. It also delves into some of the psychology and folklore underpinning the texts. So it's really, really insightful. Number 5 is another great courses lecture series called Medieval Myths and Mysteries, written and narrated by Dorsey Armstrong. These lectures were incredibly fun for me to listen to because they delved into some of the biggest topics of the medieval world, from chivalric knights to the Knights Templar to Robin Hood to King Arthur and Camelot. Again, really insightful, and learning that kind of history can provide a fun resource for anyone writing fantasy today. Recommendation number 4 is The Commuter by James Patterson and Aaron Tracy, and narrated by a full cast of actors including Lizzie Kaplan, Richard Schiff, and Thomas Lennon. The story focuses on a blackballed former FBI agent who stumbles upon a potential murder mystery with a culprit who hits way too close to home. I'm not usually a fan of James Patterson, but this one really intrigued me and I had to give it a listen. Number 3 is Firefly Coup de Grâce by Una McCormack and narrated by Emily Lawrence and James Anderson Foster. People who know me know I love me some Firefly. I mean, clearly. This story feels like a really cool adaptation of True Grit brought into the verse, and instead of John Wayne or Jeff Bridges working to help a young girl get revenge on the man who killed her pa, it's Captain Malcolm Reynolds and the crew of the Serenity stepping in to help. In the penultimate spot, I have Batman Resurrection by John Jackson Miller, narrated by Will Dameron. This title drops us right back into the world of the 1989 Batman film. While I grew up with the television Adam West version, the version brought to the big screen by director Tim Burton was a definitive version for me growing up. I got so into that movie that I could pretty much recite whole lines of dialogue verbatim without missing a beat. And while Batman Returns wasn't as strong of an entry, it was still a great movie. This book is set in between those two movies and shares some of the repercussions that came in the aftermath of the Joker's attack on Gotham, as well as some of the new advancements that Batman works on that show up later on in Batman Returns. Miller has another book in this series coming out later this year, and I'm really eager to get my hands on a copy. So lastly, at number 1, we have Dragon Day by Bob Proehl, narrated by a full cast including Haley Atwell, Michael Chiklis, and Jimmy Simpson. The best way I can describe this book is that it is Reign of Fire meets World War Z. What I mean by this is that the narrative structure of the book is written in these journalist first-hand accounts of dragons erupting out of the ground in the modern day 21st century. Atwell plays a reporter who is traveling across the globe with her daughter to piece together as much information about the dragons and where they originated as best as she can, while exploring how the rest of the world responds to such a tremendous event. So that's my list, and if you're interested in these recommendations, you'll find those titles and their ISBN numbers down in the video description.